Needless to say, the cow who was attached to this hoof was incredibly lame. This is the Hoof GP. This cow's feet are well looked after. She was trimmed a couple of months ago, but overnight she went lame. And what you're about to see is the result, or at least the cause of that lameness. You can see her flinching as I run my grinder over the base of her hoof. That alone tells me that there's pressure hidden underneath what we can see of the sole of this cow's hoof. Pressure that we need to relieve. If you look right at the tip of her toe, you can see a droplet of pus. That tells me there's a cavity hidden beneath these layers of hoof horn, one that we need to open. And we're right on the money. This cow's hoof is saturated with pus and a hidden cavity beneath the layers of hoof horn that are visible to us right now. Pressing on our sole and taking note of how much pus comes out of that hole gives us an insight into how big the cavity underneath may be. This hoof horn is exceptionally hard, so I'm going to use my grinder to thin out these layers above so that when it comes to using the knife, I don't have as much work to do. Because of our experience doing this, I know that the cavity will separate at the wall horn. I'm being as careful as I can in this area so that I can thin out the hoof horn and hopefully start to see the extent of the separation. I'm pressing now to see how thin or how thick that sole horn still is. There's no movement, so I continue with the grinder to remove a little more before getting the knife out and starting the real work. I need to work extremely carefully. Clearly we can all see there's a cavity there now, and we can tell how thick that hoof horn is, but until we make those first cuts, we really don't know what we're going to find. In effect, I need to find the boundaries, the confines if you like, of this cavity, so that I know what I'm working with and know what I need to remove. This is a really slow process, but get it right and we'll heal this cow with one simple trim. We can all see where the separation is now and how thick that solar horn is that needs to be removed, so it's free and easy for us to use the grinder to take out the bulk of the material and make the knife work much more simple. I need to use my knife for the more precise work. I can place it wherever I want before deciding to make the cut. If the cow moves, it's not going to be an issue. But now I've isolated this part, I use a nozzle to separate the toes so that I can use the grinder to speed the whole process up. This hoof horn at the tip of our toe is exceptionally hard, and using the grinder is a fantastic way to reduce the bulk of that material. You may think that we've removed pretty much all of the hoof horn that we need to, but cow's feet can be like onions, and this one has many layers. Removing the harder hoof horn may take some exertion and force, but removing small slithers of flexible hoof horn can be much more troublesome. It wants to flex out of the way of the blade of your knife. so you need to use a sawing motion sometimes to cut through those small fragile layers and reveal what's hiding below. I have an educated idea of what is beneath the layers of hoof horn that I'm starting to remove, but it's an educated idea. It's not an exact science when it comes to feet like this. I can't be absolutely certain that I'm not just about to cut into corium. Make no mistake, if I did, I would stop instantly. But the greater need for this girly in the crush right now is that we do remove these loose layers of hoof horn. We're getting very close to where we need to be, and I know she's going to need a block obviously on this outside claw, so before finishing the trim, I apply one. I know it's not going to be in my way because I do this all the time. What's more important to me is that this block and glue has every chance at staying on for as long as possible. Right, now that that's in place, let's get on with the most delicate part of this trim. I did say that this hoof was very much like an onion with all of its layers, and we've just revealed another one. But as we can see here, it goes much further than you probably first thought. Just for a second, imagine if I didn't remove all of these loose flaps of hoof horn. Imagine if I left some of these crevices and these little hiding spots for slurry and bacteria to be harboured. This cow's hoof would become even worse. It would become infected and the cracks would be exacerbated. As it is, here is the finished trim, and as you can see, there are no crevices left for slurry to be hidden in. This is a hoof trim I'm really proud of, and one that I'm pretty much certain will have done the job of completely healing this cow. Those delicate layers of hoof tissue though are very vulnerable to the outside environment, so we douse the whole area with iodine and salicylic acid to completely dehydrate those layers of tissue and give the corium below the protection it needs.